It's no secret that I absolutely love Wicked Cushions. I've been praising them and recommending them for years. And by the way, Techne pads coming soon. But in this video, I want to talk about the new Wicked Cushions Stealthz pads. These are designed in collaboration with Joe from Gadgetry Tech. Make sure to go check out his channel. Really awesome, detail-oriented audio channel. A lot of good info there for sure. We'll talk about some of his insights on designing these pads with Wicked Cushions, what he was shooting for, and then we'll talk more about my preference, because sound is definitely personal preference, and then hopefully you can decide, are these pads something you want to pick up? And I will be talking about these pads across all the headsets available, being the Arctis Nova Pro, whether it be wireless or wired, the new Astro A50s, and then the Audeze Maxwells, because believe you me, these pads really are different per. It's not like this pad you're just going to swap with your stock pad. There's a serious sound change and difference here, and it definitely goes in line with each different headset, as well as each different game that you're playing. And I think that might be a misconception out there with headsets or audio, right? Like we're thinking Call of Duty, okay, this headset's great for Call of Duty. Well, how about Rainbow Six? The sound profile, the footsteps and everything like that, the details are a lot different from Call of Duty. Or myself playing Splitgate 2 right now, it's definitely more of that Halo type sound where you're going to want some of those footsteps kind of drawn out with a little bit more bass as it's kind of banging on the ground there. When Counter-Strike or again Rainbow Six, you kind of shoot more for those highs, even with Call of Duty, so you can kind of settle down some of the aggressive sounds back to that really heavy bass. And that's what you get with these Stealthz pads. But again, just remember, it's different per game, and as I mentioned, different per headset. But before I get into talking about my experience with these ear pads, I want to talk about what Joe was shooting for with these ear pads. And he's got a lot of great videos on these as well. But I wanted to have a little chat with him. I tested these for so long in the background, and then when I was getting towards the point of filming this video, I said, okay, let me touch base with Joe, and I want to see if what I'm experiencing is kind of what he's gonna feed back here, right? And right off the gate, he states right there, it depends on what you're testing it on, right? Which headset, because they're all gonna differ from EQ and what you really got to tune them to. So, which we'll talk a lot about that here in a second. But what we're going to focus on here, he says the goal of FPS, as these pads were focused towards FPS, but man, let me tell you what, the comfort is phenomenal. But anyways, improved comfort for long gaming, breathable, again, with them being fully velour right there. Some of them do have a pleather lining in them, so they do lock in a little bit more of that sound and heat, but they're incredibly breathable. So he's looking for that. As you play FPS, we sit at the computer or again, your console for long. You're not there just beating a level and getting off. You're getting round after round. So that was one thing. The other thing was reduced bass and mid-bass bloat. Again, as I mentioned with Call of Duty, you got that excessive bass in there, score streaks, grenades, all sorts of stuff going on in a chaotic. This would be like Battlefield, right? All sorts of chaos going on right there. So to reduce some of that and improve perceived soundstage, right? So what he's saying there is, again, with the pads being velour, you're going to open them up. Kind of like an open back headphone is the easiest way to put it, right? We can go to the Astros, as we've kind of experienced that before, as the pads on the Astros have always been that fully cloth, so it lets that sound kind of breathe out a little bit, give you that open, airy type of sound, letting that bass breathe out. So it's not just jumbled and rumbled in your head and that's all you're hearing. So anyways, I wanted to point out again what Joe was shooting for, and it's so cool because that's, again, the exact experience I had when I was testing these ear pads out. But anyways, let's go on and change it up here a little bit, and I want to talk about my experience gaming with each different headset with these Stealthz pads. So first up, I want to go and talk about the Arctis Nova Pro. Again, this can be the wireless or the wired. There is a little bit of sound difference between both of them. We all know the wired ones definitely got that boost of sound, but as far as that core stock profile, pretty similar. Now, we all know with the active noise cancellation in Nova Pros, they came with those pleather ear pads, and oh my gosh, talk about spicy ears, at least for me that lives down south and it is just hot and humid. Uncomfortable and just unbearable after some time. So number one being the comfort of these pads is game changing. Oh my goodness, they are plush, they are soft, the clamping force is just perfect. They're so comfortable with glasses. My glasses slide on and off super easily with them. They're not gripping or getting stuck to them. I absolutely love the comfort on these. Stinking cozy, hand down. Good job, Joe, with the comfort on these. Like, oh my gosh, they are phenomenal. But how about the sound? This is really again, a pad that's truly going to change your sound. Like even with Wicked Cushions Freeze, like the biggest question we get asked is, does it change the sound profile? And with the Freeze ones, sure, it does change it, right? I've always stated it pulls the driver a little further away from your ear, this, that, or the other, you know? But it's micro. It's very mild, the difference that those pads change from a stock pad like that. Now coming to these pads, the Stealthz pads being fully cloth, completely different. Like you can just go what you're playing, that sound profile you got set, swap the pads, put them on. You're gonna be like, whoa, okay, something ain't right here. You know what I mean? But trust me, don't do that, right? You don't want to do that because you're going to have to tune these. Now, Joe does have a specific EQ set for each headset, multiple games and stuff like that. So you can go off that, but still, that could be a good starting point. Sound is also always personal preference, you know what I mean? So you may want a little bit more bass, a little bit more highs, so on and so forth, and vice versa right there. So when you get these pads in, you're going to truly have to EQ them. Do not leave it what you had, because that's what I tried, and I'm like, man, this ain't right, you know what I mean? So again, over like a week or two, like I seriously had to dial it, and I'm talking, okay, I'm pulling my bass down or boosting my bass up a bit, pulling that treble down and kind of tweaking here and there, and I was shocked how low I ended up dropping my treble on these, right? Because out of the gate, that's almost all it was. It was just this airy, high-pitched, not high-pitched, but just this airy, treble-filled type of sound where the bass just, I mean, it was gone. I mean, these aren't bass-heavy headsets by any means, but again, that's what I experienced. But when I started really giving the EQ time, I'm talking I'll play around, tweak it right there, and then get back into a round. Play around, tweak it, and then go on. Each round, I was adjusting it right there, and it truly made a difference when I EQ'd it, especially when I pulled that treble down, got me a little bit more bass. This is again talking me playing split gate, right? So I want that bass right there. And that's where it really came out manageable. Now, if I was to play Counter-Strike, maybe I'd go a little bit different, right? Maybe I'll pull out a little bit more highs and get rid of that bass so all I hear is that toe heel click, just like with Rainbow Six, you know? So my main point here is every game, right? Even going beyond headsets, because we're going to talk about the other two, but every game, create yourself a profile. Find out what you want, right? You're playing Apex, Call of Duty, Splitgate, whatever it may be, Halo. Make sure you create an EQ for each of those and you set it to those whenever you're playing, because it is truly different per headset, but especially per game. Now, talking about the Astro A50s, I have the A50X here, but same if you don't. Again, it's just that pass-through. Let me tell you what, this really wasn't much different at all. I was honestly kind of shocked that Wicked Cushions made these pads for these because they're so similar to the stock ones. I would say they're a little bit more plush. They will pull the driver a little bit out from you. I don't know, I've used these pads quite a bit. But again, these the Stealthz have a little bit more of that, I would say, memory foam right there. So they are going to be a little bit further away from your ears, but nothing drastic. You still get that awesome sound from these where you get that just crispy punch of bass, those nice, just detailed highs, and then those mids kind of doing what they're doing. I love the Astro A50s. I really do. I was never a big Astro fan back in the days, but these are like, oh my goodness, they are phenomenal. But again, going from stock pad to the Stealthz, not a massive difference. Honestly, I could leave it on the EQ that I had, and I use Dolby Atmos the majority of the time, and that's usually what I'm tweaking there. I keep whatever software, set it flat so I'm not double EQing, and I run Dolby Atmos. But again, the stock pads are so similar, I really didn't have to dabble with the EQ. It's totally opposite of with the Arctis Nova Pros. Like that one I truly had to play with. These, maybe just a little bit, right? Maybe pull out a little bit more bass because I like the bass I get with the A50s, you know what I mean? Maybe, again, kind of pull everything just a pinch up right there, but very similar. You're kind of gaining more of, I don't know, I would say a comfort bit, even though the stock pads on the Astros are very comfortable. Again, the Stealthz pads are just, again, they kind of give it that extra bit of loft. So on Astros, kind of look at it more or less maybe just a comfort point than as much as a sound point like we saw on the Novas. So after talking about the SteelSeries Nova Pros and then the Astros, you're kind of seeing two differences, right? Like extreme with sound difference on the Novas. Over here on the Astros, kind of like, these are a little bit easier to work with, right? You're kind of looking more or less a comfort advantage there compared to the stock ones, even though they're so darn similar. Now, this one being the Audeze Maxwells, this one was pretty interesting. It honestly sat in between, again, the Novas and then the Astros, and these are right here. When I talk about in between, I'm talking about adjustment and where I had to really dial these in to make them work out for me. Number one, if you're still using the stock pads on the Maxwells, oh my gosh, these ones are game-changing. Just like the Novas, the comfort is so much more improved. And the cool thing about these pads on the Maxwells, or heck, any of them, is they're not heavy. The Freeze pads, they are a little bit heavier, so they do add a little bit of weight. The Maxwells are an incredibly heavy headset. Again, it's mild. It's not really something you notice too much, but you can tell the difference. And these Stealth pads are incredibly lightweight, so that's a very nice touch on the Maxwell. So you got two bonuses there. Number one, they're incredibly comfortable, breathable, soft, and lightweight. The stock pads, again, they can trap a little bit of that heat in there. Now, talking about the sound profile, these being planar magnetic drivers, so they're not really punching in and out like our traditional drivers like we've seen on the other headsets or many other headsets out there. So I never experienced massive bass on the Maxwells. You can get bass in there, but it's not like that bass that's going to just smack you in the side of the head and kind of sit around, you know what I mean? So it was kind of different. I didn't really have to dabble with the bass too much on the Maxwells. Maybe I wanted to pull out a little bit more so I can get that little bit of bass that it has to hang out with me a little bit, because again, with these pads, it's going to escape out, right? So as you're catching a vibe through all of these, that's the point, right? Even like Joe said, it just makes it a little more airy, doesn't make that bass trapped in and just vibrate and radiate off cartilage and stuff and just create that jumbled sound. I stated this and it just made me think about it right there. I'll get back to the Maxwells, but the biggest thing you can experience, right, is like I'm talking right now to the camera, but if it might be weird, you're in your room talking, someone's coming like, who are you talking to, man? But anyways, just start talking, read something or talk to someone and take your ears and go like this, and you're talking, you kind of hear that bass trapped in there. You kind of hear that low end of your voice, right? It's just a simple, easy test. Take your hands out, bam, and it's open. It's like, holy smokes, right? So you lock them in like this, open them up, and you can clear as day hear that difference. That's the experience you get with these pads. As far as the highs, I mean, they were perfectly fine. I still got what I wanted, and that's what's so great about planners, right? You get that detailed highs, you get those detailed environment sounds and everything. It's so great of a driver already that adding these pads on it just kind of opened it up a little bit. You know what I mean? It wasn't as drastic as the Novas, so don't think that. These are a little bit more manageable, a little bit easier to dial in, but it was such a fun experience. Like I got that planar magnetic sound, that punchy, detailed, clear sound. I've been praising planar magnetics since the beginning of this channel, Penrose days, you know what I mean? And that's what you got right here. Like it truly dialed in this headset. Number one, as far as the comfort, right along with that headband, you got to try this. I made a whole video on it. So with that headband and the ear pads, it's like, wow, this headset is now stinking cozy. I want to use it now. Before I stopped using it because it was so uncomfortable. It was heavy, it was sweaty, it was just unbearable. But now with this combination, incredibly comfortable. As far as the sound, it doesn't jack with it too much on the planners, right? Because we don't got that bass really locking in it too much. It just opens it up, makes it a little bit more breathable, but also makes your ears more breathable. I keep going back to comfort on these because again, that's a big thing you're gaining right here is the comfort, but my ears aren't sweating. I can use this headset for a longer time. But again, and then open up that sound to kind of just get that, capture that detail. It was such an awesome experience on the Maxwells. So I know this was an incredibly confusing video. Trust me, I've been testing these for a long time, really trying to wrap up what I'm gonna say. Y'all know I don't script. I still don't script to this day. So I really wanted to, again, get that experience locked in my head and be able to truly relate that to you guys. So hopefully you can relate with me. But this is a confusing release from Wicked Cushions as well, as most of their pads have been swaps for comfort or just replacement to kind of make your headset fresh again. Even though you're going to get great comfort out of these pads, and that is a true benefit of them for sure, but I'm going to call these more of a performance pad than a cosmetic replacement type of pad. And you know, I mean this with all respect out there, okay? So don't think it, but even Joe talking about these being FPS focused, I'm not a big fan when products are talked about like FPS or esports. Like we see it from Razer all the time. SteelSeries, every company, it's like, this is a esports product or something. Well, not all of us are esports gamers. I play a lot of FPS, tons of Splitgate, embarrassing amounts right now, you know, but I also play Destiny. I play Assassin's Creed, right? I play a lot of story games as well. And I don't think you should look at these pads as just FPS. I want you to look at them as like spatial type of ear pads, you know. They're just gonna open them up. They're not gonna be claustrophobic on your ears. You're not gonna have that constant heavy hitting bass or just that full sound locked in your ears all the time. It's going to be manageable for long game sessions. But yes, like Joe said, they are great for FPS, pending which game you're playing again, right? Again, because if you're trying to play Splitgate or Halo, somewhere it's dealt more towards bass, maybe the stock pads will be fine for you. Or you just have to EQ them in, bull up that bass a little bit more like I did. Maybe if you're playing Call of Duty again, you kind of dial that bass down, and again, you get a little bit more of that airy type sound where you're just getting the detail. What these pads do. So again, I don't think it's just FPS. I think there's multiple benefits with these pads. Again, now it probably sounds like I'm fluffing them, you know what I mean? But it really surprised me, you know? I was like, okay, well, I'm not really a competitive FPS player. That's what I honestly thought right out the gate, so I'm not gonna need these pads. But when I started using them, dialed them in, got them worked my situation, I was like, okay, I see. These pads are awesome, and I highly recommend them. So yes, definitely, I recommend you give them a shot, but like I stated, give them the time. Don't unbox them, slap them on, and expect them to be good to go. Make sure you give them the time, dial them in, EQ them in, use a starting point of mine or Joe's or whatever, and then tweak them to what you like. That sounds personal preference, and then depending what game you're playing, and I think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised with these.